Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today I wanted to kind of talk about something that's been really impactful for me personally, but it's also been really impactful for a lot of our clients when they're doing, whether it's Facebook ads, Google ads, email marketing, etc., is identifying bottlenecks and understanding how to identify bottlenecks and understanding how to break down bottlenecks and then ultimately fix those bottlenecks. It's huge, right? No matter where you're at in business, you're always going to deal with some degree of a bottleneck, right? You're going to end up facing some sort of obstacle in your scaling or your growth. It just varies, right? And it shifts from one thing to another, to another, to another. But identifying those bottlenecks and then understanding how to fix those bottlenecks is absolutely pertinent if you want to continue to grow your store or your business or whatever you're doing, right? Now, before I move on, my name is Derek Stroh, and I've helped to grow about 57 and 8-figure e-commerce brands over the span of a couple of years here. And now what I do is I help and consult, growth consult, and also help to optimize retention optimization strategies as well. So really what I want to chat about today is just how to identify those bottlenecks. And the best example that I have of this is looking at clients and looking at how they look at certain issues. So for example, the amount of times that I've been on either prospect calls or client calls and they're like, yeah, you know what, Facebook ads don't work for me, or Google ads don't work for me, or yeah, we already have email going, right? It's not a binary 0-1 type of thing, right? And so many businesses and business owners look at it and say, yeah, you know what, Facebook ads don't work for me. But the reality is, if it's worked for literally anyone else, and especially people who are in your industry, saying, oh, it doesn't work for me is just one of two things. One, it's either laziness or it's an easy way out, right, to avoid that thing. And ultimately, being able to identify what the cog is within the greater system and say, hey, you know what, this is the thing that didn't work about Facebook in the past. This is the reason that Google ads didn't work for us in the past, right? Identifying what the actual main root problem is, or the main variable within the system, and then building upon that and saying, okay, well, how do we fix that variable in the system? So the best example I can draw upon is Facebook, right? You can do the same with Google. You can do the same with TikTok. You can do the same with, email marketing. But a really good example would be Facebook ads, for example, right? So clients and prospects all the time, they're like, yeah, you know what, Facebook ads just don't work for me. I've tried them, didn't work for me. It's like, okay, well, what didn't work, right? Because when you look at Facebook ads, it's not just you create a Facebook ad and you're done, right? It's not just like you click a button and boom, there's a Facebook ad. There's a lot more components and there's a lot more variables that go into play, right? So if you're running Facebook ads, it's got to come down to a couple of different things, right? The first one is your website, right? So this is one that a lot of people neglect. They're like, yeah, you know what, ran Facebook ads suck. But then you look at their website and it's like, dude, you haven't changed anything since like the 90s. Like there's an issue here. It looks bad. You've got a terrible UX. You don't have a lot of trust. Like I feel like my credit card is just going to get scammed if I enter it in here, right? It's like those early days of the internet. I still remember because I suppose I'm young enough. My parents were super weary about putting their credit card on the internet, and they were like, oh no, like we can't do that, it's not secure, etc. And I get that, especially when it's first starting off. But anyways, I digress. So looking at that is one huge component, right? Website is kind of a greater variable, but then if you look at the Facebook ecosystem, you have Facebook, and then you have the kind of sub variables underneath Facebook, and then you have sub variables. For example, you've got Facebook ads, and in order for Facebook ads to work, you need a functioning website because you need to typically get conversions, assuming you're selling some product, right? Now it goes to, okay, your website, and then from the website, now you have your add to cart, you have your initiate checkout, you have your product page, you have your thank you page, you have your reviews, you have all of these different subcomponents, even just on the website, right? So if, for example, everything is perfect, and we've seen this before too, right? Everything is perfect on your ads. I mean, I shouldn't say perfect, but let's say everything is as good as it can be right now for this situation. But you're sending people to a website and you're getting a lot of people to view content or view a specific product, but then they're not actually adding to cart. That's a big issue, right? Now, if you just look at Facebook ads as a whole and you say, yeah, you know what, Facebook ads doesn't work, but you don't deduce that, hey, you know what, there's actually an issue on the website, and that's why Facebook ads aren't actually working, right? If you don't do that, then you're going to write off entire channels and entire systems without actually understanding what the variables are. So what I try to do is break down each macro system into either micro little systems or micro variables, and then break those variables down even further, right? So you can continue on, like you can go really deep into this, right? I'll use the Facebook example still, right? So you'd look at the website, you'd look at the way that the campaigns are set up. Like, what is your campaign optimization? That's a variable. Are you optimizing for traffic? Are you optimizing for conversions? Beyond that, hey, are you looking at video? Are you using videos? Or are you using single images? Are you using long form copy? Are you using short form copy? Do you have a headline, or do you just say, hey, you know what, I'm not using a headline? Do you have a shop now call to action or a learn more, right? All of these different variables all play a reasonable effect into the outcome of the success of your Facebook ads or whatever ads you're doing, right? So if you look at that, there's certain variables that are going to have a greater impact, right? Obviously, the website is a macro variable, and you're just like, oh man, like if I have a bad website, no matter how great my ads are, it's not going to work, right? We're not going to sell product. Now, the same thing would happen is if you're looking at, hey, you have a great website, but you have terrible creatives, right? Or you have terrible, you're setting yourself up, for example, for failure, and you're running a traffic campaign. If your objective is to get purchases, please do not run traffic, right? That's a different video, but nonetheless, if you have the campaign set up and optimized for the wrong thing, and you're telling Facebook the wrong thing, it's going to deliver the wrong thing without knowing it's going to deliver the wrong thing. And then what it's going to indicate too, and this starts to become really important, right? What that would indicate to me is, hey, and I should say, like, what this might indicate to someone is that, hey, you're sending traffic to a website. The website isn't converting because you're getting a ton of people to the website. The Facebook ads are working because you're getting a lot of people to the website, but then people aren't purchasing, right? And I've seen this time and time again. They're like, oh yeah, like I get a ton of traffic from my website, or from my Facebook ads, I should say, right? Great, but is it the right traffic? Does traffic even matter? Does traffic alone lead to purchases? No, it needs to be the right traffic. It needs to be the right people, right? So looking at all of these kind of macro variables and breaking them down into sub variables is really, really important. Again, you could go like really deep into Facebook ads as an example, but I'll just say, like, for now, you'd look at like Facebook ads as the overarching system, and then you'd look at the website, you'd look at the creative, the copy, the basically like the campaign type, the audiences that you're using, I said the copy, but maybe the call to action, right? That's about it, right? There's not huge amounts of components. There's a lot of other variables and a lot of other buttons that you can click on Facebook, and there's a lot of other things that come into play, but those might be the sub variables, right? And there might be more than that too, but even within a creative, right? If you look at a creative, then there's also sub variables in there, right? So you look at a creative, for example, and it could be a video. In the video, there's variables that come into play, right? How long is the video? Is it a long form video? Is it a short form video? Is it a UGC video, or is it a product shot video, or is it a professionally shot video, right? What type of video is it? And what's the delivery of that video? Is it fun? Is it exciting? Is it energetic? Is it kind of monotone? Like, what is it, right? So looking at that and trying to properly address, like, hey, what is our actual bottleneck here? Breaking things down, and instead of just saying this entire system doesn't work, breaking it down into micro kind of systems, and then, or micro variables, and then breaking it down even further and saying, okay, well, if this variable, if the creative isn't working, or if our cost per click is way too high, for example, and there's another video on this too, you can look at like kind of troubleshooting. Let's say our cost per click is too high. Well, what drives cost per click, right? our cost per click is driven by our click-through rate and our CPM, right? So if our click-through rate is super high and not like overwhelmingly high, let's say it's like 2%. If it was like 8%, I'd be like, well, there's something going on there. That's very high for top of funnel, right? You look at your click-through rate, which is an indication of how clickable, effectively, like how many people view your ads versus how many people click on them. And then you have your CPM, which is effectively like how expensive is it to advertise and how expensive is it to reach 1,000 people, right? Now, if your click-through rate is 2%, it's pretty good, and your CPM is incredibly high, then you're going to have a high cost per click, right? So how can you then reduce your cost per click? Well, the variables that you can use to reduce your cost per click are click-through rate and CPM, and your CPM is high, so you need to look at how do you reduce your CPM. Then it breaks down into what are the variables that impact the CPM. Well, it's overall market conditions, it's the time of the year, is it a holiday, is it Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like what is it, right? You start breaking these things down into these subsystems, it starts to become far easier to identify and eliminate the things that are actually holding you back. So I hope this is clear. I might make another video on this with like kind of some drawing as well. I feel like that would be really helpful for you guys. But yeah, hopefully you found this helpful. If you've got any questions at all, please feel free to leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you've got any other questions, please feel free to hit me up. Thanks so much and have yourself a great day.